Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of Winners and Whiners Radio. I am your host, Scott Steen, the lead handicapper at WinnersandWhiners.com, and I am joined in the co-pilot chair for the entire week. He's my partner in crime. He's here each and every day doing it with me. He is the one, the only. He is Scott Reichel, senior handicapper over at WinnersandWhiners.com. Scott, happy Monday, sir. How are you?
Yep. So far, so good. Can't complain. I had two teams in the playoffs over the weekend, and now I have one. So we got to see what happens. No pressure, Islanders. Just keep doing what you're doing. But pretty entertaining weekend in sports. A lot happened. We're going to get through a decent amount of it. NBA, crazy place, man. If you're betting on individual games, you are stepping on landmines at this point.
The NBA playoffs, always a challenge when it comes to wagering, and this year has certainly been no different. By the way, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour, and we will give you the winners. That's kind of what we do around here. So welcome aboard. Good to have you. If you're new, nice to have you aboard. If you're joining us via the YouTube, good to see you. Good to be seen. And for our radio folks, thanks very much for tuning in. Of course, we are brought to you by WinnersandWhiners.com, WinnersandWhiners.com. The number one site in the world for predictive sports analysis. Each day, people from over 150 countries stop by to check out the latest information at WinnersandWhiners.com. Injury reports, weather updates, line movements. It's all there, and it's all available for free. Previews and predictions on every single game, every single day. It should be part of your daily handicapping regimen. WinnersandWhiners.com. All right, Scott. Well, let's do it as we always do. Let's get the Boy, and there were a few of them to choose from over the weekend. That's the great thing about the Monday show, Scott, is we have basically 3 days worth of games to comb through and find the very worst beats. The ones where you thought you had a winner, everything was going fine. It's going to be a weekend to remember. Everything's coming up Millhouse. And then, Scott, something happens and it all goes terribly, terribly wrong. The only thing to do is call the cops. All right, Scott, let's get it started as we always do. I'm going to take a look in the NBA. If you had the Jazz up 25 points in the third quarter, Scott, oh no, an NBA team up by 20 points in the third quarter. What could possibly go wrong? Those are absolute guarantees. Oh, wait, Scott. It says here they were outscored 81-47 in the second half. That's 34 points if you're counting at home. Sorry, kids. Sorry, Jazz. They end up losing by 12 outright. If you had the Jazz on the money line, if you had the Jazz minus 2.5, it all worked out the same for you. So sorry, so sad. You have to call the cops.
And looking at some actual bad beats that happened yesterday, if you had the Blue Jays and the Orioles under 10, you were in very good shape early. 1 run going into the 5th inning. You had 5 runs going into the 8th inning, so you're halfway there if you had the over, but you still needed them to double the total that they had going into the final 2 innings, and everything fell apart after that for underbettors. The game ended up finishing with exactly 11 runs. Toronto scored 1 in the 9th. Both teams combined for a bunch of runs in the 8th, and you ended up barely going over. But if you had the under 10 and you had 5 going into the last 2 innings and picked up not even a push but a loss at 10, that is really bad.
Absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. Scott, you had the Brewers minus 1.5. They were up 6-zip going into the bottom of the 6th. And then it's that famous Brewers bullpen came into play. You know, they have 2 very different tiers in that bullpen, Scott. There's kind of the A squad. It includes Hader and which one of their middle guys happens to be hot at the time.
It wasn't even an A squad or whatever. Hader didn't even pitch today.
That's what I'm saying. And then there's the B team that they send out when they're way behind or big leads. And that's what happens today. 6-0 going into the bottom of the 6th. They ended up winning it. But they didn't cover the run line, Scott. They win at 7-6. If you had the Brewers on the run line catching a nice price, minus 1.5, Nothing you could do, my friend, but call the cops.
Well, it was almost worse because the Brewers ended up going from up 6-0 to tied 6-6, but they scored in the ninth to win the game. So it almost was even worse for moneyline bettors, but the moneyline got there. You just might have had a heart attack or two in the final couple innings.
Yeah, absolutely true. So that's, and I like the Brewers. Brewers win a lot of games, but they are a minus EV team on the run line as a favorite. So you can't count on the scores to score those kind of crooked numbers that it takes to cover the number. And then when they do, like they did today, Scott, they send out Laurel and Hardy out of the bullpen and end up puking up 6 runs. So anyway, well, let's go on to better news, shall we, Scott? Let's go on to the people that had an absolutely fantastic day. They had the right side of the game. It looked good early. It looked good in the middle, and it looked good late, Scott. There was never any doubt about them. It's a nice Sunday for Father's Day. Maybe you had a big breakfast. Time to just kick back into that recliner and take a little nap, Scott. It is once again time for the rocking chair.
So
only one today, Scott. I'd like to keep it fresh.
Well, that's the point. I was waiting for a second one.
No second snore today, brother.
Looking at the first rocking chair, if you were looking at the under in the only hockey game on Sunday between the Golden Knights and the Canadiens, if you had under 5.5 or 5 or whatever number you even wanted to take, you had a nice easy winner. You had 0 goals in the first period, 1 goal in the second period, 1 goal in the third period. Wait a minute, there's overtime, and then you remember you had 5.5 and there were only 2 goals in the game. So you could have had a couple of overtimes with numerous goals, and you still would have won.
Yep.
And the game ended up landing at 3 goals, finishing 2-1.
Yes, sir. And you had the San Francisco Giants on the run line. The run line doesn't always end poorly. -1.5. It was plus 155 playing the Phillies. That was a great place to be. After 1 inning, they were up 3-0. Philly did score 2 in the top of the third, but the Giants answered with 3 in the bottom of the third. It's now 5-2. And that was it for Philly. They got 2 runs after 3 innings. They never scored again. Giants added 6 more over the remaining part of the game. Ended up coasting to a nice 11-2 win. If you had the Giants on the run line, indeedy, you are in the rocket chair.
And the last one took place in the NBA in the early game on Sunday between the Clippers and the Suns. And if you had the total and you had the over, 220, it was pretty easy. First quarter, not great. Got off to a pretty slow start, but then the middle 2 quarters exploded. You had 69 points, nice in the second quarter, and you also had 75 points in the third quarter. So when you have 2 quarters combined to give you 144 points, and the total's only 220, you're in very, very good shape. And the game ended up going over by double digits, ended up landing at 234. So if you had the over in the Clippers-Suns game, whatever number you got, nice, easy winner.
Yeah, we had the over as one of our client plays for our premium players. We had it booked at 221.5. We watched that number fall all day long. Like you said, eventually went down to 220. Love to see the move, Scott. I'm not sure where the money was coming from. I know there was a little bit of sharp money that came in on the under. Didn't care. They were going to go small. There was very little question about it. It didn't quite go as small as we thought with a couple of people getting more minutes than I thought, but it ended up working out very well for us. So, yeah, that was it. And you had to sweat that first quarter a little bit. I think they put up 42 in the first quarter. You're like, well, that's not ideal.
It was rough, but the next, I'd say, 45 minutes just had no defense involved at all. So
I think they went 65-73 in the next 2 quarters, if I'm not mistaken.
I listed it. It was 69 and 75.
Okay, so 144 on the middles. So
I said that too. That is correct.
You know what?
I know you're manning the board. You got a lot of stuff to take care of.
I got a lot of things going on here, buddy. But I'll try to listen to you in the future. What? All right, so that's it for the rocking chair. Hopefully, you were sitting in the rocking chair more than you wanted to pick up that phone and call the cops. Scott, overall, how did your betting weekend go?
Fine. I won yesterday with Toronto team total over 5.5. Mm-hmm. Anytime Matt Harvey's pitching, I'll fade him. And Toronto ended up facing off against Baltimore's bullpen. Valdez, remember when he was good earlier in the year? That was a fun time.
That was.
he helped me a lot out in the 8th inning because he was awful and gave up a couple of runs there. I had a pretty brutal beat, though, on the Game 7 between the Nets and the Bucks. I had the Nets team total under 107.5. They had exactly 107 with 2 seconds left. And Durant, of course, hits that impossible turnaround jumper with 1 second left. One of those situations where the best shooter on the planet, or the best scorer on the planet, I should say, or one of the best scorers of all time, has the ball in his hands. If he misses, you win. If he makes it, you lose. And he made it. So I don't know if that fully counts as a call to cops, but it felt that way to me because the only way you lose is on a pretty much an impossible jump shot, and Durant, being a 7-foot-tall unicorn, hit the jump shot.
Did you know immediately it was a 2? Did you see his foot on the line?
I actually thought it might have been a 3, but it was because from the TNT angle, the body of – I'm trying to remember if it was Tucker guarding him. I don't remember if they switched. I think it was Tucker guarding him, right? Or did Tucker foul out at that point?
I don't remember.
Either way, it was either Tucker or Middleton or even whatever. Point is that the defender had their body jumping towards Durant, so I couldn't exactly tell where his foot was at the time. I was really hoping it was a 3, of course. Right. And they said it was a 2, and I'm just like, all right, whatever. Because as a Nets fan, if I'm going to lose the bet, they might as well win the game.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even do that.
Right. It was really the best. The worst of both worlds for you. That's what I was going to say. It
was even worse because I have the team total under, and they scored 2 points in the entire overtime period.
Yeah. Yeah, they really kind of stuck. Because we played the under as a premium play there, and it was unbelievable trend. 13 of the last 15 Game 7s had gone. It
hit in the other Game 7, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, it did. It absolutely did. So that was I wondered how you were doing with all that because
I expected the Nets to lose. I mean, I appeared on some podcasts a couple weeks ago before the series started. I said I had the Bucks in 6. Of course, it looked like an awful prediction before Kyrie got injured and everything like that happened with Harden as well. But, well, no, because even when Harden was injured, they were still destroying Milwaukee for the first 2 games. But am I surprised that Durant, with no help at all, lost to a relatively healthy Milwaukee team? No. I'm honestly shocked I went to overtime in Game 7.
Okay.
Do you feel the same way or no?
No.
The forecast for the Nets is just bad.
It had been such a homer series, and Milwaukee had been so bad on the road.
I didn't think they played well in Game 7, but they did enough to hold it out, I guess. I didn't think Milwaukee – I thought Milwaukee should have ran away with Game 7, to be honest with you. But, you know.
Well, we're gonna talk about them going forward because you've got an interesting take, especially based on what you just said.
Yep.
You've got to kind of thread the needle there. So I'm anxious to see how you pull that one off. But Scott, it was a big weekend, and it's funny because that's you talk about Matt Harvey. That's exactly how I wrote the prediction for my premium players. I said it's a big day for everybody. It's Father's Day, it's the summer solstice, and it's Matt Harvey Day. I'm not sure which of the 3 I'm more excited about.
I feel like fading Matt Harvey's equivalent to robbing a bank, but it's illegal, and I'm kind of confused why it's illegal.
It's like when you're walking down the street and somebody just goes, hey, would you like some money? I'm sorry, what? It's Matt Harvey.
What's the catch? No, there's no catch.
It's Matt Harvey Day.
Yeah. But
how many more starts do you think he gets, Scott? I mean, he wasn't – the thing about Matt Harvey, he will tease you a little bit in the beginning because he was good for 3 innings. He was good until he wasn't.
Well, he was awful in the first inning, but he danced out of trouble.
Got out of it, right.
But at the end of the day, Harvey is probably the worst starting pitcher in the league, if not bottom 5, bottom 3.
There's some bad ones, but yes.
There's some bad ones, but you know Harvey's going to give you less than 5 and probably 5+ earned runs guaranteed in every start he has.
At the end of the day, I think he was 4 runs, 4 1/3 innings. So.
Yeah, which is surprisingly decent, but if you take into account Toronto blowing the first inning, Toronto could have probably had 6 by the 5th inning.
I'd have to look, Scott. I believe he may have lowered his ERA.
It's possible.
I think it's possible he lowered his ERA. So I said all that to say this, Scott. It was a big weekend all the way around, not only for hockey, for basketball, but it was the U.S. Open with people in the gallery. Looked like a real deal. That was pretty cool. So what do you think, Scott? And we will toot our horns just a little bit, although, you can't break your arm patting yourself on the back when you take the favorite and he wins. But you and I both said that we liked the way this course matched up for Rahm and that he was playing good golf right now and he deserved to be the favorite and certainly worth a sniff of your action at, what was he, plus 1050?
Something like that. I think he was like a max of maybe 12-1, but I think that's even pushing it. It was mostly between, I'd say 950 and 11.
I don't know that I saw single digits anywhere. I think I saw a lot of double digits on it. But
yeah, I'm saying it's probably around 10-1, 11-1. But
so did he go win this tournament, or did the other guys lose it, Scott?
Well, I think it's both, because you can't really have one without the other. I mean, that's the thing about a collapse in any sport, is that if you're going to actually pull it off, you need the other team to stop playing well. And you look at what happened in golf yesterday, it seemed like everybody fell apart. At some point, just nobody could make a putt. I mean, you're looking around, Oostenhausen Canada fairway, and he's laying up on par fives, and I'm thinking to myself, you still got like 6 holes to go. Maybe you shouldn't be laying up already. Like, you should probably keep going for it. But he was laying up on some par fives, and that did not work out. But you're looking at some of the other guys that were in contention. We're going to get into one guy as my takeaway for the event, which I'm not going to talk about yet. But Koepka kind of faded. Morikawa faded.
Yeah.
Schauffele fell apart again on the back 9, which doesn't surprise me because I feel like he falls apart on Sunday all the time. And even some of the guys you might have wondered maybe to keep an eye on, like a Dustin Johnson type or like a Rory type. Rory, I think, went on a run for maybe 2 holes, and then everything fell apart again. But nobody was really doing anything, and Oostenhausen was in the I'm playing to not lose the tournament. I'm not playing to actually win the tournament. And Rahm just said, give me these birdie putts, I'm making these. And that's kind of
why did he launch it down the left side there on 17?
Talking about Louis or talking about Rahm?
I'm talking about Louis.
It's a great question.
I don't know what you're trying to do there. I don't know why you just don't go up the right side and play safe.
I think what happened was that Louis, as I mentioned on the par 5 earlier, I forgot what hole is the par 5. I want to say it was the 12th, I think, or like the 13th. There was a par 5 there. And you see some of the other guys trying to go for birdie, trying to, make some ground up. And Louis is laying up on his second shot to try to get himself a good position for a birdie putt. And then I think he realized after a couple more holes, this Rahm guy's catching up to me. I got to try something. So I thought Louis really was too conservative early, and then he was too aggressive late, and he failed on both accounts. That was always my takeaway. I mean, Rahm put the pressure on, which is what you have to do. You can't just let the guy in front of you coast. You got to actually make him make shots, and Rahm did, and Louis didn't.
Fair enough. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is going to put Rahm back on top of the rankings. Do you agree that he is the best golfer in the world right now?
Right now, yeah. I don't really know how you can argue it. You can talk about how there's some other golfers who, at their peak, are better. I'm not even talking about like Tiger and Phil, like they're past their prime. I'm talking about like DJ. This is the kind of guy who you'd think of, where you think of Dustin Johnson, maybe a Koepka, maybe a Bryson even. And you could say, well, if they're playing their best golf, they're pretty tough to beat. But that's not what the number one in the rankings mean. It means you are consistently solid. And Rahm is extremely solid and extremely consistent. So, yes, he should be the number one golfer.
Well, now, according to FedEx, according to the FedEx Cup, he is second to Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, but a lot of that also is because of the fact that Rahm had to withdraw from the Memorial, and Cantlay got the first place points that Rahm easily would have gotten. So that's completely misleading.
Well, he went from 19th to second with his win at the U.S. Open. So
correct, but I'm saying he probably would have been in first because
you're right.
Had to win. He would have won the Memorial. I mean,
he didn't fall apart, right?
Wasn't falling apart. He had to withdraw in the middle.
No, I said as long as he wasn't.
Yeah, as long as he didn't fall apart. Yeah, I mean, he was 6 shots at the time.
Right. Correct.
So that was a wrap. So Cantlay got gift wrapped in the first place spot in the FedEx, but I think we both agree if you had to pick one golfer to at least, not even to win the tournament, but to finish top, let's say 10 in any given golf tournament, Rahm might be the safest bet out there. And I think that that's a true testament to how consistent he is as a golfer, which is why he's number one right now.
I agree. And he's got a game that matches different course styles, and I think that's important.
But it goes back to consistency. He'll hit fairways, he'll hit good approach shots, and he can putt.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is Morikawa is kind of like the Ben Simmons of golfers, where there's just huge gaping hole in a part of his game for Morikawa. It's the putting.
Yeah, he can't putt, but I'm not going to compare him to Ben Simmons because unlike Simmons, Morikawa actually won something. Is it too soon to make that joke or no?
Wow.
Hey, listen, if Doc Rivers can throw him under the bus and Embiid can throw him under the bus, I think I should be able to throw him under the bus. Is that fair?
Yes, Doc.
I still like Morikawa. He's still very young, but the putting is glaring. But every now and then your putting clicks, and you can pull a Morikawa or a Matsuyama and have a really, really solid tournament if the putter just doesn't disintegrate on you for 4 days.
Agreed. All right, so I know there's one golfer that probably
I have to. And I hope that everyone listening knows who I'm about to talk about.
Probably had a bigger meltdown than anybody else. And Scott, by the way, he is the number 3 golfer in FedEx points this year. So as you prepare to roast him, just know that he's a pretty fair golfer.
I didn't say he's bad. He was bad today. But I got to talk about Brooksy. I got to talk about Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
Looking at his performance there, we were thinking about including him on Call the Cops.
You could have done it.
Decided not to. If you had DeChambeau to finish either top 5, top 10, the really bad beat, though, was top 20. That's an all-timer. DeChambeau was tied for the lead at one point in the front 9. He goes into the back 9, bogeys 11, bogeys 12, double bogeys 13, quadruple bogeys 17. He shot a 44 on the back 9 out of 36 shots. So doing the math, he shot a +8 on the back 9 and finished outside of the top 20. Ouch. Now just
tied for 26.
Tied for 26. So he did end up making top 30. So it wasn't an all. If you had top 30, you had to sweat out for no reason. But
you're laying what -300 at that point for top 30.
You're easily laying
-350.
Yeah, but top 20, you're laying about -130.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else right there. The guy goes 8 over. Really, I don't even know if a triple bogey would have gotten him top 20. I doubt it. But after going for the double bogey on a par 5, where he hits the sand wedge over the green,
launched it,
and then he comes back 4 holes later and hits a quad bogey. I don't even know what was going on there, but I can't say I'm surprised because I forgot what tournament it was. Was it the Masters where he had what do you have, like a 9 or like an 11 on something? He'd had a bounce on like 3 straight shots.
You'll put some numbers up, buddy.
Was that the Masters?
I don't think it was the Masters, but I could be wrong.
It could have been, but the point is DeChambeau can hit the ball really far. The issue I have with him is that he doesn't always hit the ball straight. But mentally, Bryson is not fully, I'd say, equipped to handle adversity. And he has been very good in his career. And, of course, with the size that he's bulked up, he can hit the ball farther than anybody. But do I trust him to hit a perfect approach shot in let's say, a one-hole playoff for a major? No, because I think that his strokes are unreliable at times. And that's why I gravitate to guys like DJ or Rahm, who I know DJ wasn't great today. I know he was terrible. But the point is that you just feel like some of those other guys have another gear. Even people feel the way about Koepka. And yet Bryson, I know he's kind of the new guy, the new alpha, or he tries to be. But there's a lot of points in any given tournament where Bryson will just do something stupid, and you go, what are you even doing right now? You feel that way?
Oh, I do. Absolutely. It's just, and he's not young anymore. He's 27 at this point. So you would think.
You'd think he was 25 based on how suddenly he rose to popularity.
Yes. You do think that he tends to be younger than he is, especially the way his head sometimes is or isn't,
Yep.
So, yeah, he needs to get it fixed. He needs to work on the mental game because I think at that level, I think, the tennis players will tell you the same thing. Golfers will tell you the same thing. The skill level is very, very similar.
Yeah.
It's all about what's between the ears. So, everybody is a fantastic golfer, just like everybody's a fantastic tennis player,
I'm trying to figure out a fair comparison in tennis to DeChambeau because DeChambeau did win a major. He reminds me a little bit of Kyrgios in a way. I know Kyrgios is a little bit more out there and eccentric, but the idea of him having pretty much all of the talent imaginable, and yet at some point he's probably going to fall apart. That's the comparison I would make. I don't know if that's fair or not.
Well, I don't know. So somebody with a big serve that doesn't have a
well, Kyrgios can hit a serve like 135, 138 or so, even 140, but the forehand's there, the backhand's there, the movement's there, and yet the longer that there's some stress involved, the more likely he is to implode. That's at least my comparison.
Okay. All right, that's a pretty good one. Not bad at all. That's a good pull. And we didn't even work on that in rehearsal, buddy.
No, but then again, Kyrgios never won a Grand Slam event, and Bryson has won a major, but still, he's got to figure it out.
I do feel like that golf is probably a little more wide open from week to week than tennis is as far as who's going to win the tournaments.
Well, yeah, especially with the big three era in tennis.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the same people almost every time.
Right. You don't have that in golf. So
well, because golf you can have Cinderella stories because it just takes 4 good days. For tennis, you don't need 4 days. You need about 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, for the majors, 2 weeks. The lesser tournaments, like usually a week.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this basketball situation, Scott. Shall we?
A lot of people probably thought we were going to talk about this first, but we had to let it marinate a little bit.
Yeah. That was just, there were some things that were so awful in that U.S. Open that I think we just had to talk about it. And there were some things that were pretty awful in the NBA. Well, first of all, Scott, let's start with your Nets Saturday night. I know you are a big Nets fan, and they just couldn't quite get there against Milwaukee. You and I talked about it. Milwaukee didn't really play their A game. They weren't unbeatable, but the Nets just didn't quite have it in them. Scott, what would you attribute that to? Is it Durant just can't win the big one? Is he a choker?
Yeah, Durant's a choker for scoring 48 points. It was really amazing how Twitter just is so reactionary. I know some of it's trolling and some of that's just mocking him for being a snake in the super team stuff and everything. But it's like, oh, Kevin airball Durant. I'm like, you mean the guy who hit the shot that sent them to overtime in the first place? Like what? Is he better off not making the first one instead of airballing this? Like, I don't understand the logic there. But no, the game itself was decided on a couple of factors. You had the fact that the Nets can't rebound. And even when Milwaukee was missing a bunch of free throws, they got so many rebounds off of the missed second free throw of that game. I want to say it happened about 3 to 4 times, which just led to extra possessions. Giannis was great. He had a couple of threes, including one that was banked in from the top of the key, which I'm sure he called at the time.
Oh, yeah, I heard it.
But the thing that really happened was the fact that besides Durant, Harden was – I know his stats were okay at the end, but he was terrible. I mean, there's not really much else to say. He hit that miraculous bank 3 in from the wing. Other than that, though, he couldn't hit a jump shot, and he kept taking jump shots. I don't know how many times I was screaming at the TV for Harden to pass the damn ball when Giannis was guarding him with 5 seconds on the shot clock. You can't shoot. You can't jump. Why are you trying to shoot over Giannis? It happened 6 times. I'm just looking at the TV going, give it to Durant. He's the only guy on the team I trust. And Joe Harris was terrible. I mean, that's the given kind of takeaway that people want to talk about because Harris was wide open in overtime, and he misses the wide open three-pointer, which would have put them up 3 with less than a minute to go. But the main takeaway was the fact that the net supporting cast with the injuries just wasn't good enough. And I said that going into Game 7. Truth is, people might call me Benedict Arnold, but I had money on Milwaukee in Game 7. I'm willing to admit that. I thought they were the better team.
You know, I thought the home and away splits would hold. That and the fact that Milwaukee was not only a bad road team in this series, they've been a bad road team all season.
Well, played a factor. Milwaukee didn't look good in the road, but I just figured the Nets, unless Durant was going for 50-something, I just didn't they had the support, and nobody did anything. I mean, besides the starting 5, I don't think a bench player scored for the Nets. I think the starters scored every point.
That can't be right.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think Connaughton's the only guy on either bench who scored.
No, that can't. Are you talking about in overtime?
No, I'm talking about in the entire game. I don't think anybody on the Nets bench actually scored.
That's not possible.
I'm like 98% sure that's what happened. I don't remember if Shaman hit a layup or not, but I'm pretty sure.
I stand corrected. Yeah, they only played an 8-man rotation, and they got
the only person who scored on either bench was Connaughton.
Yeah, Connaughton had 9.
But Jeff Green got injured. He couldn't move. I don't think Green attempted a shot, or if he did, it was a layup that he missed. I don't think what did he attempt? One shot?
He did not.
Green attempted 0 shots?
13 minutes, 1 offensive rebound.
Okay, so he didn't attempt a shot. Joe Harris was awful.
Yep.
And Griffin, I thought, was good, but he fouled out. So I was not surprised. But I can't roast the Nets. Nash decided I'm going to let the star players try to win the game. I blame him for not using a timeout on the last possession. But other than that, though, no, Milwaukee was the better team. They were the healthier team, and they won.
And, Scott, that clicking sound that you hear is the shotguns being cocked and all the executives of the network executives as Atlanta took down the 76ers. So instead of
the league is probably thrilled that you have Atlanta, Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Final.
Oh yeah, unless you like I don't know, TV ratings, then
TV ratings, which were bad to begin with for the NBA, but whatever.
Yeah, and losing Philly, which is I think the number 6 market probably, and of course losing the number 1 market.
Even if you don't like the Nets,
not ideal.
They were so good for ratings. They were perfect for ratings.
Oh, sure. Harden, Durant, drama. Absolutely.
Yep.
So the Phillies, Scott.
Well, they played like the Phillies bullpen, but it's.
I mean, the 76ers, the team from Philly.
That loss was a lot worse than the Nets' loss. Let's just get that out there. In my opinion.
Okay. So explain.
Nets had injuries. You just look at the actual roster and say that Milwaukee, in Game 7, you're looking at the starting lineups. Milwaukee's clearly better. I mean, it's just obvious. You can just look at it. Meanwhile, you look at Philly. That is so bad. I can't even say that it's as bad as the Clippers last year with the Nuggets because they blew a 3-1 lead, but there was no home court advantage there. You're a team that was one of the best home teams in the league in the regular season. 29-7. You lose 3 out of 4 home games in a single series.
Yeah.
You won 75% of your home games in the regular season, give or take.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous. And it's not even to mention the fact that you blew an 18-point lead in one of the games. Then you blew a 26-point lead in the game after. Then you won on the road in Atlanta in Game 6 just to lay an egg at home in Game 7. That is such an awful performance. I really cannot think of another coach who would have been able to accomplish that besides Doc Rivers. I can't. Can you?
It's a pretty short list. No, certainly nobody that's been around for 20 years.
Budenholzer with a question mark?
We're gonna find out in the finals. So yes, guys, it's Atlanta and Milwaukee. 76ers, they put up 96 points in that do-or-die must-win situation.
Oh, by the way, I found out a fun stat, by the way. We talked about how Game 7s typically are good for home teams in the past. That was not the case in the 2 Game 7s over the weekend. I found out a fun fact. Doc Rivers has lost in a home Game 7 5 times.
Oh,
the second most of all time, 2.
Ouch.
So he has the most blown 3-1 leads of all time and the most lost or the most Game 7 home losses of all time. And there's nobody in the same stratosphere. Like, he's doubling the second highest contender. I got to bring it up. 5 Game 7 home losses? That's unbelievable.
It really is. It really is kind of hard to believe, to wrap your mind around being able to do that, because you'd think just luck itself, you would start winning a couple of those. But.
Now, you can mention, of course, hockey, they lose at home in Game 7 all the time, but that's hockey. Like basketball, you're the home team because you were the better team in the regular season. We know that talent dictates most of the time who's going to advance to the next round. Was there any doubt in your mind that Philly was the much more talented team on paper?
No, not on paper. Absolutely not. But again, what percentage do you think Embiid was out there? 70%, 60%?
I was going to say 65, but the truth is paper also would tell you Ben Simmons is actually a pretty good basketball player, which we might have to have that conversation. I know I brought up Doc Rivers because it's fun to do, and I don't know if Philly's going to bring him back next year, but we got to talk about Ben Simmons. I know I want to start off with Rivers because everyone's focusing on Simmons, and I just wanted a different angle because there are a lot of people to blame for the spot, and the coach is usually a good place to start.
Sure.
We got to talk about Simmons because I don't have any idea how you can be in the league for this long and still have no offensive talent. I get the idea that you can pass. You have 13 assists, you're a good defender, and you had 8 rebounds. I get it. You cannot play 36 minutes as a starting point guard in Game 7 and score 5 points.
No.
You can't turn down that layup with 4 minutes to go to pass it to Tybal.
The jam. What was that about, Scott?
He was afraid of getting fouled. I got to assume he was afraid of getting fouled.
I guess that's what Doc kind of alluded to, that the foul shooting was definitely in his head.
I mean, he set the all-time record for the worst free throw shooting in the history of a playoff series.
So you just don't go to this. You just don't go to the hole strong then?
The point is, he had no purpose on the court offensively, because if he can't shoot, which we know he can't, and he's too afraid to drive because he's afraid of going to the foul line, then he's basically a defensive stopper, and you can find those on the street for $4. They paid him, what, $170-something million?
Wow, that seems like they were paid a lot when you could have somebody for $4.
I think, the league minimum, kind of varies depending on what the veteran actually cares about getting.
I get that.
You get my point, but I'm telling you, I don't know what the Bucks paid P.J. Tucker, and I know that Simmons can pass the ball and dribble, unlike P.J. Tucker.
Right.
But you're really telling me that there's an $100-something million drop-off in comparison to those players late in games? There's not.
Yeah, no. That's a black hole in your lineup when you got to have offense.
Now that kind of takes us into the post-game press conference actual comments by Rivers and Embiid. Rivers basically said, I don't know if Ben Simmons can be the starting point guard on a title team, which in other words tells you, no, he can't, but he can't say that because he's his coach. And Embiid said he thought the turning point was on the play where Simmons turned down the dunk and passed it to Tybal. Now, I thought the turning point was when Tybal fouled Herter on that three-pointer in the last couple of minutes. I thought that was the turning point. But still, you have to trade him. I don't know how you keep Simmons at this point. You've tried him and Embiid for so many years. I thought they should have blown it up last year. They should have blown it up every year. They should have blown it up after the Raptors series that they lost. But I don't know how many times you can just look at Simmons and realize in the playoffs he's useless. You have to trade him. It's not even a discussion. And I think Morey as a GM will actually do it because Elton Brand, I thought, was a little bit too hesitant and a little bit too loyal to guys. Morey, is going to trade half the roster because he wants to win that badly.
Right.
So I think Simmons is gone. I think Rivers should be gone, but I think they'll keep Rivers.
That was going to be the next question. You think Rivers makes it another year?
Truth is, I think Rivers should never be in a position to handle a top 10 team in the league. I think Rivers is a phenomenal floor raiser. He's an abysmal ceiling raiser. He is awful when it comes to making teams maximize their actual title talent. But if you want to bring him to Orlando, have a reunion there, and let him try to make the Magic somewhat respectable as a 10 seed in the Eastern Conference, go nuts. But for this Philly team where you're actually trying to win playoff series, you cannot trust Doc Rivers in the playoffs. You just can't do it.
So
you agree, or do you think I'm being too harsh?
No, I like Doc.
Put him on Sacramento. Let them try to build an identity somewhere, But I don't trust him to actually manage Game 7s.
Well, that doesn't appear to be the case, that he doesn't seem to be able to do it. So we talked about this, Scott. First ballot Hall of Famer?
He's going to get in. And people are going to be really annoyed by it, and they should. Because I don't think he's worthy of being a Hall of Fame coach when you have the resume of being probably the biggest choker of all time as an NBA coach. But you look at the longevity, you look at the teams he's been on, the fact that he's won a title, even though he had one of the best, most talented big threes of all time. And he's also just a really well-liked guy. I don't know who votes for the Hall of Famers. Is it also the writers in basketball? I know it is for baseball.
Yes.
The media loves Doc Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's definitely getting in. Would I vote for him? Absolutely not, because I would not trust him to coach my own team. But I think we would agree, based on how long he's been around I mentioned that he was the head coach of McGrady in Orlando, and that kind of blew your mind a little bit because you forget how long he's been around.
Right.
He's been around for 20-something years. He'll stay around for a while. He'll get into the Hall of Fame. You?
704 career wins, 585 winning percentage.
I don't know what that is all time for 700-plus wins, but he's got to be above some current Hall of Famers right now.
I would think top 10.
Yeah, so Rivers will get in. I wouldn't vote for him, but he's going to get in.
You plan on having a vote by then?
I would actually love to have a vote, but I think my gambling ties might not let me.
Probably don't care for that, do they?
If I could compare Doc Rivers to anybody in sports, I know he won a title and something I didn't. I'd compare him to Phillip Rivers. He's a guy that everybody loves. He's been around for an eternity. But late in games, he's one of the last quarterbacks you'd ever want.
Doc Rivers is 10th in wins, by the way.
He's a Hall of Fame coach. You're not going to finish top 10 of all in wins and not be a Hall of Famer.
Well, let's see. Larry Brown in, Bill Jackson in, George Karl in, Pat Riley in, Popovich will be in, Don Nelson, I would assume in.
Yeah.
Lenny Wilkins in, Jerry Sloan in, Rick Edelman.
He just got in.
There you go. So 9 for 9 in front of Doc. Yep.
Yeah, he's going to get in, even though you might hate him as a coach, and I think he's terrible, but he wins games. They're going to give it to him.
Brutal.
My Rivers comparison, by the way, I know as a Chiefs fan, you've seen a lot of Rivers choking.
It's pretty good. It's like they come from the same family.
Kind of.
Doc Rivers and Phillip Rivers, nice little solid guys. You'd like to have them over for dinners. They seem like nice guys. But as far as
it wasn't even intentional that they had the same last name. Just first thought in my head was, who's the guy that's awful late in games? Oh wait, that's Phillip Rivers. Yeah. Everybody loves him.
Yep, absolutely. So going forward, Scott, we've got a couple of prices as far as the series goes. Of course, a lot of money coming in on the Suns now, of course, since they took the first win there in their Western Conference Championship. Suns minus 430 against those Clippers, Scott. Clippers plus 350 coming back the other side. You had an interesting philosophy and strategy on this bet. Would you like to share it with the audience, Scott?
It's very simple. You wait until the Clippers lose game 2, and then you bet the Clippers. So what they've done the first 2 series, they go down 2-0, and they suddenly wake up.
So you've got them almost right where you want them.
Correct. If you're the Suns, you lose game 2 on purpose, and then you're in uncharted territory for the Clippers, right?
Where's the value? You see any value taking the Clippers at plus 350, or do you see any value come back the other way? Are the Clippers going to rally?
You look at the actual spread for game 2, Suns are up to 6.5, which I'm assuming means that Chris Paul might actually have a shot to play in game 2, because I don't know why it would go from 4 to 6.5 when the Clippers hung tough the entire game. I just find that line moving fascinating. I'm assuming Kawhi's still going to be out and maybe Paul's going to play. Is that just a pure speculation move?
Well, I'm checking right now. Chris Paul.
We would have to because it raised 2.5 points.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there was a news report, or maybe they said something in a press conference that indicated that, because there's last injury update was Sunday afternoon, and he still is officially questionable. So
that's the point. I'm just trying to look at the actual line movement between game 1 and 2, comparing the lines, and I don't understand it. So the value, it's going to be on the Clippers once they go down 2-0. I wasn't joking. I mean, Phoenix is the better team when they have Chris Paul and Kawhi Leonard's less than 100%, but I don't know when Paul's coming back. And it's not like the Suns blew them out today.
No.
The Clippers hung around.
That was a very entertaining basketball game.
Yeah, it was good. So I am not really – I think the value has to be the Clippers, but do I think they're going to win the series? No.
Okay. All right. Now, on the other side, you've got a fresh series there. And oddly enough, Scott, the favorite is an even bigger favorite than in the series where they're up 1-0. And that's the Milwaukee Bucks at minus 450. Hawks plus 360 coming back the other way. Now, Scott, I know you were pretty down on the Bucks, but yet you think the Hawks have no chance in this series.
I think the Bucks are going to roll. Just to put it mildly, I think that people are down on the Bucks, including myself, because of what they did against the Nets. The Nets still had two phenomenal games when mostly healthy, and that kind of sways people's opinions on Milwaukee because once Durant was by himself, he did win that one game. Milwaukee won every other game. I mean, Milwaukee was what, 4-1 after it was 4-1 from game 3 onward, so they definitely figured something out. Defensively, they're very good. I just think the one difference I would have comparing the Bucks to the Sixers is that the Bucks actually have some kind of identity. Philly, I don't know what they're doing late in games. Now, Budenholzer's an idiot. I do acknowledge that. But Giannis at least knows what he can do. He plays great defense. Drew Holiday should do a better job of actually just size-wise matching up against Trae Young. And it's most of the injuries for Atlanta. I mean, you're looking at Bogdanovic, who has been injured for the last couple of games. Herter was great in games.
Oh, hang on. I think Bogdanovic just put another three-pointer off the front of the rim.
Yeah, Bogdanovic was awful in Game 7, but you saw he injured his leg in Game 6. I wasn't surprised that he struggled. Trae Young, we've seen with the shoulder pack on for most of the series, and he was also grabbing his foot towards the end of Game 6, and they won the game. He was awful, but they won the game. But I do question Atlanta with some of the injuries, some of their key guys. I just think Milwaukee's got a little bit too much size, and I think that their bench and their overall supporting cast is just better than Philly's. So I just think Milwaukee's going to win the series.
Would you have thought that Milwaukee or that the Hawks were going to be able to win that game with Trae Young shooting somewhere around 23%?
No, you assume they lose by double digits.
No, that's the thing about it. I was really impressed, Scott. I've talked about this a lot. I've really been impressed with his maturity and the way his game has evolved from his time at Oklahoma and his early time in the league. He didn't get down. He didn't stop doing what he was doing. He just started dishing the ball, Scott, and he had some fantastic assists there inside in that third quarter when it mattered.
I'm just trying to look at the matchups on the inside. Embiid did whatever he wanted. I'm assuming Giannis will do whatever he wants in the series. But the thing you have to remember is that when things got tough for Atlanta, they had somebody that they could foul intentionally and get some free possessions. Milwaukee doesn't have that. Milwaukee's a good free throw shooting team. They're a good defensive team.
Oh, you should tell Giannis that. You should let him know that he's actually a good free throw shooter.
I think Giannis is better than Simmons at the foul line.
Okay. Wow, that is a high bar.
That's what I'm saying. The bar is very, very low, but if Giannis can shoot 50 to 60%, that's probably good enough. I just think that Atlanta with Trae and Bogdanovic clearly being less than 100%, I just don't think they have enough firepower.
I think this is a live Atlanta team. They are a team that believes in themselves. They believe in what they're doing. McMillan has them going in the right direction.
How about Gallinari, by the way? He was balling in that series. Good for him.
Really was. He did a nice job. He added 17 yesterday, and that ended up being huge. So
maybe it's just me. I'm just not exactly sold on Capella, and I think John Collins is okay, but I just feel like Milwaukee's going to do a pretty good job of spreading this team out, and I think Giannis will get a runway.
Okay,
we'll see.
Couldn't disagree more.
So you think Atlanta wins? Or you got Milwaukee?
I think they're extremely live at plus 350.
That sounds like you like Milwaukee in 7.
Milwaukee's a better team. I will give you that, but as we've seen, that doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and take Milwaukee in 5. But once again, if Budenholzer falls apart, it would not surprise me. But Milwaukee, I think they kind of figured something out. Mostly Middleton not being terrible in playoff games anymore.
All right. Well, we'll see how that trend continues.
Yep, we'll see.
And as far as the hockey goes, Scott, we've got the Isles and the Lightning coming back for Game 5 down there in Tampa Bay. Of course, Tampa Bay, again, huge favorite, minus 180, 185. I don't know where you get it. So 5 is your total. Where's the value in this game, Scott? You know, you can say, well, the Lightning are better than the Islanders. Yep, sure are. They've been better every game, yet there it is, 2-2. I've been the Islanders' MO, right?
The goal is to get outplayed and then miraculously win games. No, it's just
outplayed, outshot, out-hustled. Yep, give me the Islanders.
Tampa's faster.
Yep.
They're more talented up top.
Yep.
They have the better goalie.
Absolutely.
But the Islanders can roll out 4 lines that are extremely consistent.
Yep.
And that's what they do. They're not a team that's going to wow you, but they're a team that will sit there and just wait and wait. And then as soon as you make a mistake, they have a goal and the game's over. That's what the Nets do. It's a crouching tiger technique.
Scott, was that save the other night the best hockey play at a crucial time you've ever seen?
Involving one of my teams, yes. All time, it's probably up there. A lot of it might depend, though, on how the series plays out. Like, if the Islanders win the cup somehow, that's an all-time, like, top 5 hockey play of all time.
Is it up there with the Jeter hustle play?
The Jeter hustle play caught it in play. I actually think the best Jeter play was the flip play. That's my own personal preference on the Jeter play.
That's the one I'm talking about when he's behind.
I thought you meant when he dives into the stands against the Red Sox.
No, nobody cares.
Okay, so we're on the Jeter flip play is also a great play. Unfortunately, they lost in Game 7 of the World Series to Arizona, but people still love the play.
Right.
But the thing is, I've seen a lot of great plays in hockey. But if you lose the series anyway, let's say Tampa wins this series in 6 or 7. Are people really going to remember the Pollock play 5 years from now? I don't really think so. I will, but most people won't.
Well, as a diehard Chiefs fan, it's like remembering the Mahomes laying out to the side, throwing the strike 30 yards down the field that they didn't catch. So,
I mean, I can talk about the Jay Beagle save that he had against Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, but Pittsburgh won the game anyway. It was pretty much the same exact play. Tie game. It was a tie game at the time, and he dives across. He saves it for Washington, and Pittsburgh won in overtime, so nobody remembers it. But it's an all-time great play.
All right, very good. So who do you like? Who do you like in this one tonight?
I like Tampa.
Okay.
I'm rooting for the Islanders. I had Tampa in 6 before the series started, but then again, as you notice a trend, I don't always think highly of my teams when it comes to them facing off against, Tampa in this case, because Tampa's really good, and they also have the cup. So you got to actually beat the Stanley Cup champions. But at the end of the day, the Islanders have to scratch and claw for every goal they get. Tampa just has one guy in Braden Point who's guaranteed to score in every single playoff game that he's in. He scored in 7 straight playoff games. It's really just insane how one guy can just automatically put the puck in the net every game. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I think it'll be very competitive. But do I think the Islanders are going to score more than 2 goals in this game? No. So I think Tampa gets it done 3-2, 2-1, something like that. I like the under out of anything.
Okay. Do you think there's value on Tampa at minus 185?
No. I don't think there's value there because I just don't see a game where 1 or 2 bounces might decide it being, taking in that team at minus 180. I do think if you want to take Tampa in regulation, that might be worth a shot there. Around minus 115, give or take. I think that might be worth a sniff. But as a whole, I'm rooting for the Islanders. I think this game will be very, very close. But I think Tampa's just going to have too much firepower, and they'll get one across late, probably win 2-1.
Yeah, I don't like them on the puck line. I don't like them giving 1.5. I think.
The series has been a war, but Tampa just has so many more shots in almost every game.
Well, that's kind of the Islanders. That's kind of their jam, Scott.
Yep, but that's the thing, though, is you feel kind of bad about taking an underdog when you know you're walking into being outshot by 15 almost guaranteed every game. That's not that appealing,
Yeah, I would agree. All right, Scott, real quick. I know we're going to talk about something here very quickly, but by the way, stay tuned because we have Bet the Farm coming up, so everybody get ready for that. Scott, you got a baseball play for me here real quick?
Well, looking at the overall card, I like the Astros against the Orioles. Orioles can score suddenly, but they still can't pitch. Aiken's been okay. Odorizzi has been better lately, but Houston has the best offense in the league based on runs per game. They're phenomenal. And you look at Baltimore, this bullpen's terrible. They're in Camden, and Baltimore stinks in Camden. Houston should win this game handily. Houston's won, 7 in a row?
Yeah, they're playing very good. They're playing very good ball right now, and they are on a heater as far as scoring. They've averaged 7.1 runs per game in their last 15.
They've been great.
They've scored 6 or more, Scott, in 12 of those 15 games. That's just phenomenal. So,
and I don't exactly think Aiken's going to walk in front of this sizzling offense and figure out how to stop it.
No, he was good. He was good his first 3 starts after coming out of the bullpen, and then he absolutely got just roasted last time.
Correct. Now we talk about the White Sox killing left-handed pitching. Houston's not far behind. This team's really good against lefties.
Yes, they are.
And I think that's going to show up once again on
a lot of big right-handed bats in that lineup.
Yep.
All right, sir. Anything else from the baseball card?
I'll let you go. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
No, not really. The Royals are off. I don't hate looking at Darvish and Urias there for the Dodgers playing the under a little bit. You can still get.
I'm looking at the Dodgers because Tatis is probably going to be out.
Yeah, that's the Tatis. Of course, the Dodgers are going to be without Bellinger. They're going to be without Muncy. It's a couple of weakened lineups there for sure. So I would tend to look at the under if you can still get it at 7.
I know you have a couple of premium plays on the baseball card though.
I do. So you know what? It's time, Scott. Let's do it. We've reached the end of the Monday show. Kind of ripped through it there. I knew we knew we had a lot of basketball to get through. So, but now, Scott, we're only going to have 2 games to talk about. So
more baseball coverage.
We're starting to get more baseball coverage in, but now is the time that everybody waits for, Scott. It is that time where you and I put our heads together, come up with our very best play. People often ask, Scott, is that the number one question you get in real life and on Twitter? What's your favorite play today?
No, but it should be.
What's the number one question you get, Scott?
What time is it?
Idiot. All right. So for the rest of us handicappers that do this for a living, the question we most often get, what's your best play today? We're going to answer that right now. We put our heads together and come up with a play just for you guys. If you had to put all your chips in the middle, if you had to bet it all on one game, this would be the play. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for you to bet the farm.
I think it's my turn today, correct?
I believe it is. Scott, take it away, sir.
So for Bet the Farm, we're going to be looking at a matchup between the Reds and the Twins, and we like the Reds team total over 4.5 runs. You look at Minnesota, and we talked about fading Matt Harvey yesterday. You got to start fading J.A. Happ because he has been awful this season, especially lately. Happ has a 6.12 ERA and a 1.44 whip. He's allowed at least 4 runs in 6 of his last 7 starts. Minnesota has a 4.82 bullpen ERA, which is the 7th highest in the league. And Cincinnati's averaging 4.99 runs per game, which ranks tied for 5th in the league. Cincinnati should be able to tee off against Happ, and the bullpen's not very good for Minnesota either. We think Cincinnati gets to 5, especially with the wind blowing out in Target Field.
Yep. Happ has been just very bad. 9.84 ERA, 1.97 whip over his last 7 starts.
Guaranteed 9 at-bats.
Yep, guaranteed 9 at-bats. We do absolutely like the Cincinnati Reds team total over 4.5 right there. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Winners and Whiners Radio and this edition of Bet the Farm. As always, we appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you folks out there on YouTube watching. You guys, we wish you nothing but the best here on this Monday and have a great week. For myself, for Scott, for all of us at the Winners and Whiners team, hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money when you head back to the window. Guys, take care. We'll see you tomorrow on Winners and Whiners Radio.